It's migrating to Australia. I'm Grant Williams. I've emerged from lockdown funk. Lockdown funk number 5. David, we are free. Hello, David Bongiorno, Australia's favourite and best. I can say that, Australia's best immigration lawyer. Hello, David Bongiorno.
Grant Williams, how are you, mate? It has been. It's number 5. What's the funk? It's migration podcast time. All is happy, all is joyful, mate.
Didn't you? I have to say, I didn't really have. I didn't find I had too much drama in our long lockdowns last time, but I found the last one
they've
hard.
broken us, mate. They've broken us. We're used to it.
I found it hard because I couldn't find joy in being stoic. You know, last year I was going, we're being stoic, we're battling through, but at the same time, look, David, I'll kind of introduce. We've got a guest on. Everyone watching can see that. But before we throw to our guest, who has one of the best taglines I've ever heard, David, it's very hard to know that we're doing something and everyone's complaining and up in arms, all marching up and down the streets. Freedom, freedom, we're being oppressed. And, you know that I've got lots of friends in Asia, especially in the Philippines. They've been flooded. They have another typhoon, and they're in lockdown. It's a bit of a bastard when you're in lockdown and your house gets flooded.
We don't realise how lucky we are, Grant.
And your president says to the police, if you see people who shouldn't be outside their homes, feel free to shoot them. So, hey, if you're going to a lockdown protest in Australia, pull your head in, you bloody moron.
We have someone who can extol the virtues of Australia. He's a South African Australian. And we've got the wonderful marketing whiz, Michael Glasser, on the phone to talk to us. Michael, thank you for joining the Migrating to Australia podcast, mate.
Guys, Grant, David, thank you very much for having me. I know we've been talking about this for a while, David, and I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Now, Michael, before you get going, I have to get this out in the open. The bacon-loving Jew. Let's go there.
That's a good starting point. So I'll give you a bit of background, a little spiel on myself. So what happened was about 7 years ago, I started an Instagram page called The Hamburglar. And what that was, it was my journey to kind of go around Melbourne and trying to find the best burgers and start doing reviews. It also gave me really good insight into the digital marketing space. I needed a tagline. I needed something different. I'm a South African Jew. So my tagline was just a Jew who loves bacon and burgers. As you can see from the boys, it's got a pretty good response. I also started a hashtag called Don't Tell My Rabbi. Might be doing something not so kosher. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I started doing a lot of my marketing research, I guess, and learning about how the social platforms work, and also just keeping my cholesterol as high as possible.
What did your rabbi say?
We don't talk about it. I think we just don't look at it. We just don't bring it up. It's a lot easier.
It is one of the most interesting pages on Instagram because Grant and I love a burger. My question to you: how far have you driven for a burger? How far will you drive for a burger?
Oh, well, I was invited to Carlton Draft did a Australia-wide pub tour where they flew. I think it was about 100 people from Melbourne to Sydney. It was Melbourne to Adelaide to Perth to Gold Coast to Sydney back to Melbourne over a week. So the furthest I've probably gone for a burger was in WA when they actually had, because I was invited to go onto it. They actually made us these massive burgers. I can't really show you on the camera, but they're massive. That's probably the furthest I've gone for a burger.
That's a long way, Graham. What's that, 3,000 Ks?
Oh,
4,000 Ks? More than that.
You went to Perth and back. That's
well, the journey there and back, yeah.
David, I hate to disappoint you and Michael, but I haven't been crowing about this, but I've been plant-based for a while now, except for seafood.
Really?
So
well, mate, if you want a good burger, Easy's in Collingwood with a place with the trains on the roof.
Yeah.
I used to work there. I was their marketing manager, so I'm going to give them a little plug. They've got something called a Harvest Gourmet patty, and they're essentially a meat alternative, like burger patty. So when you get time, head down to Easy's, because I've had it. It bleeds like meat, but it's all actually the beetroot that comes out of it, and yeah, it's delicious. It's probably one of the better ones you'll have.
Now, people will be listening overseas, and McDonald's comes to mind. Can you tell us in frank and full terms what you think of the Big Mac?
I love the Big Mac. Hate Macca's pickles. Hate them more than anything in the world. But I love the Big Mac. I reckon it's a great burger.
And the other one that I love when I go to the airport is Burger King, the Whopper.
The Whopper's great. The Whopper's a great burger. I think it's all time and place there, because then like the Rodeo cheeseburger is great from there as well. But a little menu hack for McDonald's: quarter pounder, but then ask for a steamed bun with diced onions, and then add lettuce, and then if you want to be a little healthy. But yeah, trust me, the steamed bun is the kicker. That's going to make the Macca's burgers even better.
I can't get on board with the pickle hate. I'm sorry.
It's just Macca's pickles. Just Macca's pickles. We did a survey the other day, actually, for a company called StatLab that we work with, and we were figuring out how many people take pickles out of their burgers. And yeah, I mean, I think we surveyed was over 2,000 people, and yeah, like the results were pretty crazy. We also did something on like Coke versus water. So like 78% of people reckon pickles belong in their burger, where 22% don't reckon pickles belong in their burger. So Grant, you're on the winning side.
Well, of course, and it's like, you know, you don't go to McDonald's for the Coke because it's only syrup out of a bag and carbonated water. So that's pretty much what's in your can too. It's just,
yeah. I mean, like Macca's Coke and Movie's Coke's always the best. When you go to the movies and you get the massive Coke and the massive popcorn, it's definitely the best Coke you can get.
Grant and I are short and round. We bounce off the ground. You're genetically far superior. Could you tell us how big you are, how much you weigh? Because you're a Burger King and you're in shape, and Grant and I are fighting to stay in shape.
I can. So my burger journey started out when I was powerlifting. So I was starting to do competitive powerlifting, so I needed to put on a bit of weight. I took it a bit too far, and then put on I got up to 111. So I'm 95 at the moment and 6'4". So I've lost a little bit, which is good, and just trying to maintain it. But I was eating 3 burgers a day at one point, which is just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous.
I could do it, but I don't think I'd live very long. What about you, Grant?
I'm still just giving Michael a pass. For a long time, I've thought the only person over 6 foot that I would forgive is Andrew Gaze. I'm letting Michael into the club now. So
glad to hear I made it.
You can do whatever you want. Your metabolism must be like a bushfire, mate. Seriously.
Me?
Your metabolism must burn.
Oh, I wish, mate. I'm up at 10 to 5 most days at the gym. Then taking the dog for a walk, ideally twice a day as well. So trying to stay pretty active. I think that early morning routine is also good. Helps with work, helps with everything. I think doing a lot of stuff before everyone else is awake, because I think there's some proven stuff that little bit of advantage can really help. So yeah, it's a good routine to be in.
So anyway, speaking about migration.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. My next question was going to be, how long have you been in Australia for now, Michael?
So we immigrated in 2000, I believe. So yeah, coming on 22 years. 22 years in December. 21 years in December.
How old were you when you came over?
I was 5, so I was pretty young. But I did go back 3 years ago. And then it was interesting because I remember little things. I don't remember too much. But it was really interesting to go back, and Mum and Dad took us like, oh, this is where you used to live. But now like the fences are higher and you can't even see into the property. It was a big culture shock going back to South Africa. I think, like we're talking about taking stuff for granted. I don't think, like Mum and Dad used to say, like just being able to walk to the park like freely here was just mind blowing to them. And you don't really realize it until you're back in Joburg, walking around, and you're like in these gated communities with security, and you just don't have that freedom. It's a really, really big culture shock.
How long were you in Johannesburg this visit?
We did a week in Cape Town, a few days in Sun City, and then Buckabung Nature Reserve, and then we did a week in Joburg. So my auntie and uncle still live there.
And
Michael, you've got Netflix, haven't you?
I do have Netflix.
Have you watched Penguin Town?
No, I haven't. What's that about?
Okay. Mark that one down. I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
I'll take a note
Mark that
now.
one down. Now, you too, David, you've got Netflix.
I do indeed.
It's the best documentary ever made about South Africa.
Now,
Perfect.
You went over as you came here as a 5-year-old. Did you stop in Perth like a lot of South Africans do?
Ironically, yes. I think we spent a couple of days in Perth when we immigrated over here first. I've got close family friends over there, and then I went to see that's something. I went to Israel for the Maccabea Games in 2009 for basketball, so that was good. So I went to Perth again, met all the Jews there. So yeah, I've got a good kind of the Jewish communities everywhere, and I've got friends in Perth and Brisbane and Sydney, Melbourne. So yeah, it's kind of helped.
Basketball, hamburgers. I love it. I wish I was tall. My son plays basketball, and he's going to be taller. He's already taller than me. You come from a family of big fellas because you are gigantic in the flesh, and every South African I meet and assist in migration who's a man stands at least 6 foot tall. What is it in the water over there?
Well, my old man, he's 6'3" and some change. He's like a tiny bit shorter. He won't admit it, but he's that little bit shorter. He hates it. And then mum's 5'2", so I'm not really sure. Like mum's tiny, and then my sister's about 5'8" or 5'9", so it's a bit of a diverse mix. But yeah, I definitely get it from dad's side.
Dad migrated as a skilled migrant, or did he come over on a business fit? How did you migrate? Do you remember?
My grandparents were here, and then my other auntie and uncle were here. So I'm not too sure about the actual details, but I think we could have come in through that. And is this the point system with migration? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. The skilled migration.
Yeah, skilled migration. So I believe it was that. Dad's in the security industry, and mum she was advertising and marketing when she was younger, but now she's a success coach for Tony Robbins.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she'd actually be a great person to have on the podcast.
Absolutely,
she'd love it.
Now, tell Grant and I tell listeners. I mean, you went back, so you have an appreciation of South Africa and a full understanding of Australia. What you talked about security. What are the other things that we have here that people are not aware of because they haven't come from somewhere else? What the quality of life is something a lot of South Africans talk to me about. What is the attraction to for South Africans to Australia?
Hey, the biggest thing is freedom. The fact that you can just, like, I know I touched on it earlier, but I think it's still just such a valid point. The fact that you can do what you want to do and go wherever you want to go, and there's no fear for your life, and you can kind of live your day, like live day to day how you want to. I think that was really interesting. I find that you're very on edge when you're driving around there. Like, obviously, Dad knows what's going on when he's driving there. He kind of slipped back into his usual routine that he has when he was living in South Africa. So it was interesting to see kind of how, now that he's older, how to react to certain situations and be around it all. We went through Soweto as well. That was tough. That was tough to go through the Soweto tour and see what's going on there and see how everyone lives. But they're making it work, and I think it's a bit of a weird one because it's this tourism concept where you go and visit the Soweto shanties, but it's bringing money back into the economy at the same time because you're paying for it, and there's tour guides, and you're learning a lot about the culture. And then you go eat delicious food, have a braai, it's like 5 minutes away from it, under this massive water tower that you can bungee jump off. So it was really interesting to see a lot of that and see a bit more about the history behind it. But yeah, like I said, freedom's probably the biggest thing. And I don't know too much about the career, like jobs and stuff like that, but I feel like there's a lot more opportunity here to find work and do what you want to do and have access to a lot more stuff.
Do you sometimes wonder, Michael, about the origins of the segregation in South Africa and wonder what it might have been like if that hadn't occurred. And I know it's an extremely complex kind of question, but as someone having left a country and the turmoil that was there, what emotions are stirred within you when you look back?
Well, we actually went.
And do you still consider yourself South African?
That's very good questions. I think we spent time at the museum, the Apartheid Museum, and I think it's just baffling to even think like that. To even think the world was like that. I missed it I was too young to even see any of it or the repercussions properly. So yeah, I think learning more about it was good. I think the education piece needs to be shown to a lot more people. A lot more people need to understand how bad it was. Especially, I don't want to butcher this topic up, but I think the story of how they started how students started protesting and they're actually shot in the streets. I mean, to hear that just for the color of your skin, it was hard. It was really, really hard, and you kind of feel helpless because you can't do anything. You didn't do anything, and you weren't there to do anything. So you kind of feel a bit, you just don't know what to do.
Well, I think you didn't do it, but
but didn't indirectly, or you know what I mean? Like, is it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, we've got the same issues here that we don't talk about and we don't confront honestly about what your own living standards actually represent.
He's getting excited in the background.
He's getting angry. He's getting angry at me.
Tell everybody about who you have in the background.
She's going to come up and say hi, I think.
That's even better.
This is Brixton.
Oh my word!
Hello. Oh yeah, time for a game.
She's not getting enough attention, so she's just a little bit needy. Yeah. Sorry, Grant. What was the second half of that question?
Well, just do you still consider yourself, or did you? I mean, were you ever really self-aware enough from the time you came, because it was only 5, of being South African, or are you an Australian who looks back at an ancestry of South Africa?
So I'm Australian. I'm a citizen. I'm an Australian citizen. This is my country. This is where I live. This is where everything is. And I think I'm definitely still proud of my heritage, that I am South African. Same thing with being Jewish. It's something that's I'm proud of it. I tell everyone. It's bio to almost 40,000 people. It's like my old man summarized it well. He goes, I go for the Springboks until I became a citizen, and now I go for the Wallabies because this is my country. And man, I think that summarizes it perfectly, right? The fact that you look at it that way, you go, yeah, cool, I get it, and it makes a lot more sense. So yeah, I'm 100% Australian, because our origin is dad's from Rhodesia, mum's born in South Africa, and then Germany and Lithuania. And then they escaped before the war on mum's side, and then unfortunately dad's grandparents were involved in a mass murder in a synagogue, unfortunately, due to the war. Yeah. They were locked in a synagogue and burnt alive. So they escaped. So I think my family were lucky to find South Africa and build a community there and build relationships there that have lasted for a really long time.
Now, you said that the digital marketing experience of generating your own page on Instagram, the Hamburglar, gave you a lot of lessons that you've been able to use professionally. What are some of those lessons? And people who have an Instagram page and want to use it for their business, what can they do? What secrets, what hacks do you have for them?
My first one's communicate passion, I think. If you've got an idea or a belief or a business, I always say, someone's like, oh, I want to start an Instagram account. What should I do? And I go, well, if you've got an interest in it, I guarantee someone else has one as well, right? And start finding that niche and committing to that niche and giving people consistent content. And I like the idea. My thought process with a lot of stuff, marketing-wise, is people want stuff to brag about. They want facts. They want knowledge. They want to be like, yeah, like I learned this. Like people, I find a lot of people want to drink an expensive wine to brag about the wine, but they talk about the features. So just communicating that so people can learn is, I think, the biggest thing. If you're a brand, communicate your brand message to someone so they can learn about you and then tell everyone, because your biggest advocate is a strong review, right? If people are going around saying how much they love your product, that's doing the marketing for you. They have to understand what your marketing does, and don't just post stuff online for the sake of posting. Have some time and strategy, consult with an agency, and do a proper marketing strategy with them and figure out who your target audience is, what they're doing, what are they interested in, and make sure you plan it all out.
If someone was wanting to migrate to Australia and they came English as a first language or English as a second language, and they engaged you, how would you take them through the Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn process? Can you give us some steps, because it's a cross-cultural issue here, and how do they make themselves most appealing to Australian audiences and then to international audiences?
So this is interesting. My dog's just ripping her bed up. So I think it's a good question. I worked for a watch company doing their marketing for a while. It was a German watch company that came to Australia. So I started interning there and then kind of build up the ranks, and tailoring content to your audience and making sure that if you are looking, you do some research on the Australian demographic. And that's simple things like changing captions to have more Aussie slang in it. So researching Aussie slang and the way like we talk and using that for your captions is going to work really well. And then imagery wise and video wise, same thing. Use an Australian, use multicultural Australians, but use people that are from, like, live in the country, because no one really wants to see other people. Like, they don't want to see other countries. There's a lot of stock imagery that goes around. It's not Australian, and you can tell. And it's just, so you both shaking and nodding your heads because it's crap.
I won't use it. I just simply won't use it. And if I don't have an image which is original, and I know that hasn't been on 20 other websites, let alone 20,000 other websites, whatever, well then I'll do this. You can. It can just be nothing. It's better than trying to talk about Australia and you've got a picture of a moose walking up a bloody
having an American $1 bill. American $5 bill instead of an Australian $5 bill. Like, I mean, little things like that just get missed.
How do we know, Michael? How is it that when we spot a stock photo, we know straight away from the people that they're American, not Australian? Is there any study on? I know straight away. Grant knows straight away when we see a stock photo, we go, they're not Australian, they're American. What is the tell? What's the giveaway? Because we know instinctively, intuitively.
I think it's our fashion, to be honest. I don't know. I can't. You can just tell though. It's the way the grooming, it's the hair, it's the smile. It's fake. It's a combination,
and
it is fake.
And I know that's a wide thing, but in America, if you do a commercial and you've got kids in it, you got to have a black kid, you got an Asian kid, and a white kid. That's if you've got more than two kids. I think you've got to have a mix. Well, we don't have that now. I understand what generates all that, but because of that, there's a sameness in the content that we see. And look, we're seeing American ads all the time that are revoiced to pretend they're Australian, and they're the worst. They're the worst. I mean,
100%.
And I don't know what metrics people are using, because I can't think that they're going to be more effective than one that they make in Australia, but maybe they're more profitable because they don't have to pay anything to make an Australian ad. I don't know.
Well, at the same time, we could be onto something here. Should we start an Australian stock imagery website with just Australian content? I mean,
actually, I do have someone who could be the photographer for that.
Perfect.
Look, I think that is something we need, and you can make it so that, well, I don't know, we need a repository like Pixabay or something, I reckon, or where I know some of the best photos to use, I think, are the ones which an agency would always reject. They're bad photos, but they're honest.
But they're real. They're real, yeah.
Well, this is, I think, the way content's moving now. I think it's really exciting that video content, imagery, you look at TikTok and Instagram, it's more about raw imagery now. It's more about raw content instead of this really professionally shot stuff. Sorry, excuse me.
Actually, Michael, let me ask you about that, because you've obviously done a lot of work looking at TikTok and Instagram, and look, even I guess you're still looking at Facebook and whatnot. Now, the media focuses on things that go viral, but so many of the things that go viral, you end up getting views, but you don't get clicks, you don't get engagement, you don't get a sale. What do you know about what is popular as against what works?
Oh, mate, if I knew that, I'd be charging a lot more money.
Oh, I was hoping for a freebie.
Mate, it's an interesting concept. Instagram is being a lot more open with their algorithms and how they do a lot of their content now and how they process it. And like TikTok, for example, the way TikTok works is when you do your first post, it blows it up for you. It tries to get you the biggest audience it can because it creates that addiction to it, right? So you're like, oh, my first one did really well, and they've got all these trending videos and stuff like that. So I'm not sure there's like dances and hashtags and all that. So if you work into the hashtags and the trends, you're gonna get pushed further. But then like the guy who was skateboarding, drinking cranberry juice, I mean, you can't pick that. That was the most viral video this year. But it was just him just being cool. You know what I mean?
But with TikTok, I'm no TikTok expert, but what I don't like about it is that I can't choose who I see. If I want to see you, I can't choose to unless what have I got to do? Choose burger content.
Well, you can still search people, so people still have profiles. So it's very similar to Instagram.
I have to know about you first.
Yeah. So like, if I don't actually use TikTok. I should, but I never really got into it. I think it's very addictive. But you can still search them. So it's just searching usernames. Okay. So like you search on Instagram for the hamburger _ it's the same thing. You would just search that on TikTok.
Now,
actually, how did you not get sued for being the hamburglar?
Well, I might. That day could definitely come. I spelt it differently. Like I did ER, and then I did an underscore as well. And I eat a lot of McDonald's. So I feel like if anyway, it's only going to benefit McDonald's by having me.
And you're not wearing a mask and a flat hat.
Exactly right. I mean, they've just released these Peter Alexander pajamas with the McDonald's collaboration they did. And I've had about 10 people message me going, check these out. It's got the old school hamburger. Yeah, and then my mate's got that tattooed on his leg. He's got the old hamburger as well. So yeah, he's out there stealing burgers.
Now you're not into TikTok. You don't do it. You said it's addictive, but are there reasons? Do you advise it as a strategy for clients still, or?
100%. I understand how TikTok works. I know we can also make really good content. Like we've done a company that does cookies. We reshot her video campaigns, like a step-by-step video on how to make her cookies, for example. So using really good video content, we do a lot of advertising on TikTok because you can get, Grant, what you were talking about, you get these views. So impressions are a really important thing. Impressions are great. Unfortunately, impressions don't always result, like you said, in clicks and conversions and all that. But eyes on your product and eyes on your brand is always a good thing, right? So you can use TikTok if you don't have a massive budget to get a lot of impressions on your product, a lot of impressions on your videos, and you'd run them as video view campaigns. But then also like a big thing is Pinterest. Pinterest is really, really great. It's essentially visual SEO in the sense that it's all full of keywords, just like your Google rank, just like Google, but you've got beautiful imagery attached to it or video attached to it. We're doing a lot of stuff. So I'm in a BNI chapter. That's how I know Dave. We're doing one of our clients in the chapter, we do her Pinterest marketing for her. And it's all about getting just people to the site, more awareness for her brand. And we're going to use it to launch a new brand for her as well. So yeah, it's just picking the right platform, I think, is also the other thing as well. Like everyone thinks, I recently released a thought leader article on LinkedIn about, does everyone actually need Instagram? Because today we talk about this a fair bit in the fact that just because it's a platform doesn't mean you need it. Just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean you should do it. There's a lot of options and opportunities if you choose the right platform based on audience and what you're trying to sell.
Michael, what about the idea that if you can't do it properly, don't do it?
Oh, I think ask for help. I don't think don't do it. I think ask for help is probably the better answer.
There's a whole lot of competing sort of buzzwords. There's be everywhere, right? But it's not appropriate to be everywhere if you can't do something properly. It's just you then become part of the problem with social media.
Yeah.
And that is how much crap is on it.
Yeah, and it's just they've just invented a bunch of stuff. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna get the dog really quick. Sorry about this. Just feeding something.
This is keeping it real on Migrating to Australia.
Keeping it real.
Michael has gone to look after his beautiful dog. It's a funny one. Michael, it's a funny one.
She's ripped her bed up while we've been on the call.
Oh my word.
Oh well,
it's all good. All good.
She's demanding. She's a demanding.
It's hard work.
What Grant's saying, it's interesting. I see a lot of is somebody having identical content on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Identical. Now, is that how much of a sin in marketing is that, or is it something that, as Grant says, contributes to the crap?
Oh, I think it can be good. I think. But using the same content but repurposing the design is the way to probably do it. So, for example, we're talking about the statistic company StatLab we work with. What we've done on Instagram, for example, it's talking about the data of the Australian social media market, for example. There's 4 carousels, so you click and swipe through. Then for LinkedIn and Facebook, we've actually created a PDF one-page document. So if I'm busy online, I just go, oh, cool, I'll click the PDF, read through it quickly, and then move on. So it's changing the content, the way you display it. And then a lot more of the stuff on Twitter is just a general tweet. Like I said, that pickle stat, we've just literally tweeted it. So you can use the same content, but I think ideally making sure it's displayed differently is probably the key to success.
Michael, is the social media world different in the Jewish community than it is in the broader Australian community? Like, do different things get pushed and get popular? And the point being, are there significant cultural differences in the social media that Jewish Australians might be enjoying compared to Italian Australians? Well, Italian Australians. How do we say that, David? You're Australian.
The old bands of Italian stock. Mum's an Aussie. So we've got. Yeah. I was going to crack a gag, but I'll behave.
No. We're on dangerous enough ground. Let me cop the flak for it, Dave.
Well, mate, that's another great question. So I think there's 2 ways to look at it. If you're trying to market to an Orthodox Jewish audience, don't do any advertising on a Friday afternoon or Friday night till Saturday afternoon because it's the Sabbath. So there's no one using technology. So, sorry about that. Train going past. We're keeping it real, guys. We're keeping it real.
Keep it real.
I thought it was an alien invasion. I thought War of the Worlds was coming to your back door.
Yeah, we must have offended someone during our chat and they're coming to get us. But at the same time, I think the idea of, I'm going to use food because food's culture and food's really exciting and important to everyone. The fact that you can find blogs on how to make challah, how to make pasta, how to make everything, and people share their culture through videos on YouTube, through Pinterest, through Facebook, Instagram, blogs, everything like that. I don't think it's just Judaism, but I think it's really cool that you can go on Delicious or go on Munchies or any of these channels and find specific cultural elements and how to cook it. And then you can start, so if I don't know how to make challah, for example, I can then go watch a YouTube video on it. So I think there's no benefits or pros or cons to any of it. It's all just, I think to mine, it's all pros. But then same time, social media can be really bad in the concept of anti-Semitism and racism, and this is the negative. There's no control behind it. There's a podcast I listened to, and he's like, I don't think the world social media will work until everyone has a verified social media account with actual people, because there's no anonymity anymore. They have to be, like, you can't just post all this racial slurs and anti-Semitic slurs anymore. You have to, it's because there's a face in the name now. Like, cancel culture is so prevalent now, but maybe it should be for that stuff. If someone's name's there, they should be called out for it, right?
But cancel culture's always been here. It's just a different. It's just a different place that you're getting cancelled from. I mean, how many? How many short, fat Jewish people are presenting mainstream Australian TV programs, mate? Actually, how many fat people are presenting primetime TV in Australia? Cancel culture, not new. There's plenty of them doing podcasts now. Look, we've got a question, and actually, this is good on you, Leroy. Leroy Holden has put a question up. Maybe I shouldn't have read your name out, Leroy, based on what the question is. But I was going to raise this about why social media and verification of accounts can be a problem. How does social media affect the outcome of any type of partner visa? That's part one. What if someone prefers privacy and doesn't really want to have their life in full public view? And this is the myth of transparency. All these influencers going on about transparency, but you don't know what city or suburb they live in. They shield that. Leroy. Of course, transparency is a myth.
Yeah, Leroy, I think the amount of privacy settings now. I mean, Apple, for example, is their whole new push is data privacy. I'm not saying everything you do has to be online. I think if your name is there, that should probably be verified. But like the fact that you can go private on Instagram is a great thing, right? I think the fact that you can still hide it.
Leroy's asking about migration question that dovetails off Michael's. If you do have social media, the government will look at it if you have it. If you don't have it, then they're not going to look for it.
They can't see it.
Your love stories, your statements you make, you stipulate clearly in your love stories that you are partners and you are private and you do not have a digital footprint. It's not going to be prejudicial in any shape or form. So social media, Facebook photos, Instagram, in a relationship, engaged, married, Facebook status, that's all great if you have it. But if you don't have it, you simply explain to the Department of Home Affairs that we're private people and you get verification from other people in the form of 888. So not having social media or not sharing social media with the department is not at all fatal. It's just most people tend to love to share. But if you're a private person, Leroy, don't stress about that. Make sure it's clear in your love stories that you are private so they know not to look. There was a second limb to that question. There was a second limb.
That was it. How does social media affect the outcome of any type of partner visa? Except that if you've got stuff on social media, say you've got 2 accounts, we don't know how all the matching works, but if you've got a dodgy account out there where you're, slaughtering pigs in national parks and stuff like that, that's not going to look good for your character if you're riding on the back of a ute being a hoon with no hands. All that
Leroy,
stuff will get found.
I've got a better one, Leroy. A better example. If you're in a committed relationship, I'm not saying anything. If you're in a committed relationship and you haven't closed your Tinder account, closed your Bumblebee account, and they find you on Bumblebee.
Did you mean Bumble?
What's it called?
Bumble, I think.
Just Bumble. Just Bumble. You're doing good. You're doing great.
Yeah, but that's how people will. That's how you get yourself in trouble. So if you're in a committed relationship, anyone in a committed relationship would shut down any dating apps, because if dating apps are concurrent and running and they find them, then there's a lot of explaining to do.
Gee,
I should know. I should know
how do we-
Tumble because they sponsor Clippers, Michael, and I love the Clippers.
They do sponsor the Clippers.
Yeah,
They're great. They've also got a whole entrepreneur networking side for the app as well. It's not just dating. So you can do friends. You can find friends, find business, or find love.
What's the biggest trap people who come to Australia to start a business in terms of marketing? What do they really need to be aware of? If you had a starter kit, a social media starter kit for them, what would it consist of? Obviously, depending on the business. Like, we'll use food. Let's use a restaurant.
A restaurant's an interesting one. So as I said, I worked for Easy's for 2 years. So Jimmy Helston, who started Easy's, similar to me, he's actually got almost 90,000 followers. He's called Jimmy's Burgers on Instagram if you want to go check him out. He used his following initially to grow his presence and then launched Easy's off the back of that. But the key things you'd want if you're starting a restaurant, think visual, right? Everything's visual. Food's visual. I explain this concept, like the idea of pictures worth 1,000 words. You eat with your eyes. You should have Instagram and Facebook minimum. You need somewhere where people can directly message you, so they can do it on Instagram, they can do it on Facebook. You can update live. You can do live updates, stories, everything you do. You can communicate. I look at capturing good content as well. There's heaps of videos on YouTube on how to use an iPhone to shoot content. There's editing apps which will really help you out, and a website. You need a website with your menu. Because if you're a business and people are searching for burgers in Melbourne, you want to be able to rank on that. So you also want a website with strong SEO to start off with. So SEO is search engine optimization for anyone that doesn't know, and essentially how you appear organically on Google. So like First Move Digital, we do all the SEO on your website for you, for example. The idea is it's a long process, right? It's not something you turn on and the next day it works. It's 12 to 18 months time.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing results. You'll start crawling up. No one's guaranteeing first page, and if they are, tell them to take a hike because it's all crap. Like if someone says to you, I'll get you on the first page in a week, just be cautious. I think we launched an ebook recently explaining the concept of digital marketing, what all these different things are, what Google Ads are, what TikTok is, what Pinterest is. And the main thing that we wanted to communicate, we did a lot of trade shows and realized that education in digital marketing is the biggest issue. No one knows what the hell's going on, and no one wants to tell people what's going on because then they can't charge as much money. So educate yourself on social media platforms. Influencers and a lot of these people are successful off their own bat, and they're just learning and doing and trialing. But at the same time, if you have a bit more resource and you have a bit more cash, an agency can really help. I mean, we talk about this concept of a unicorn, and there's unfortunately, I haven't found them yet, the one person that can do SEO, ads, organic content, shoot videos, shoot photos, and build websites. Unfortunately, that one person doesn't exist. So that's kind of where you want to come to an agency and go, all right, cool. What can I benefit out of this? What can I benefit? How can I maximize the 20 resources this agency has to help my business? And then just ask for honest feedback and honest advice, and people that help. I'm here to help. If you got questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer anything. So add me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email.
I've got a question.
Chat about anything. Yes, great.
I've got a question. Small entrepreneur, someone in a similar position to David, perhaps with a couple of employees, basically running small business. What budget do they need to start to come and even think about employing your services, Michael?
Well, we work on a modular concept in the sense that we don't package it. It's not like $4,000 a month. It's what do you need help with? Because like I said before, it's the right platform. So David's in a referral business, right? He's mainly referrals and he knows a lot of people. So Instagram stuff could be really good, but we've talked about this before, David, an idea of LinkedIn would be really beneficial for you and growing your personal brand on LinkedIn. So example, like thought leadership would be 40 articles spread out over 6 months. And those articles talk about the industry and update the industry. That's about what is that? It's like $1,500 a month for that content package. But then like if say I'm a restaurant, a social media package is roughly $1,500 a month. And that's 4 to 5 posts a week for you with copy written by our copywriters. And there's also a graphic creation element to that as well. So that's going to be on Facebook, Instagram, And Pinterest, for example, we can get all that stuff up for you. And then websites, unfortunately, are a bit hard to cost out based on what the requirements are. But like, have a chat. If you've got ideas, you want to see what it is, we're always happy to quote and kind of work with you guys and work towards budgets to make sure that we can help. Because especially, like, I know the margins in hospitality, if you are a restaurant, suck. You got Uber Eats ripping the souls out of everyone for 30%. It's only going to get worse. Like, it's taking the margin out of the small margin that's already there. So we try to work towards budgets, and if we can give advice instead of helping, if we can give advice, we're happy to give advice.
Michael, are there any apps, any new social media platforms that are coming that we need to prepare for? Anything on the horizon that's going to be exciting and new?
Instagram is changing their entire direction. So they're moving towards a video platform. So Instagram started obviously with taking photos and posting photos. They're looking at TikTok's success and TikTok's growth, and they've gone, you know what? We probably need to copy this. So there's going to be, Instagram's going to move towards a lot more video. But like we were saying, rough video doesn't have to be professionally shot is the way of the future. So anyone can adapt to that. And even just filming yourself. I saw someone makes really good content on LinkedIn, and all it is she sets a camera up and there's a setting on Instagram that like writes the words when you talk. Just posting those up. They look great. So use the filters, use the apps. A good video editing app I use is VSCO, which is VSCO. And that's great for editing images. I've been using that for 6 or 7 years. So you can find a lot of resources.
What about Clubhouse?
What about Clubhouse?
Yeah, I don't know if it took off.
Yeah, it's
hasn't
gone quiet.
I feel like it was like this. They had the exclusivity concept, which is cool. Like, oh, you've been invited to Clubhouse. Make sure you check it out. I just don't think it went anywhere.
Well, it doesn't give you any value over and above anything else you can do. I mean, David and I have tried for a long time. Well, for a long time since it came out, we were
February this year.
Yeah, trying to find a reason to use it. A couple of people that I've followed and have followed their podcasts for years use it, but mate, I'm listening to a podcast of 45 minutes rather than a whole bunch of. It's like a whole bunch of friends sitting around in the lounge room. Well,
yeah, I'm not like I'd rather, I know the podcast I want to listen to comes out every Tuesday. I'm going to go listen to the podcast. I don't want to hear, if I want to hear people yelling, I'll go home.
Now we have another question now, David. I think it's he's had 3 goes. I'm interested for work permit to Australia. And then lots of prayer signs. David, if you don't have any contacts and you don't have a network, or you have no idea about getting a permit to come and work in Australia, what's step 1?
Step 1, we need to know what country the gentleman comes from. Step 2, when the borders are open, depending on where he's come from in his travel history, he might want to come here as a visitor to check Australia out, maybe say hello to a few people. Depends what country he comes from, what skills he possesses. That would determine whether he comes on a working holiday visa, a work and holiday visa, or a business visitor visa. It's very difficult in these times, without a sponsor and an occupation on the priority migration skilled occupation list to come at all. So we need to.
I might suggest, because it's a complex answer. The answer is very complex.
Incredibly.
Go back through our back catalogue in the podcast and look at all of the general skilled migration episodes, because we're consistently talking about the point scheme. And if you can't satisfy the points, you can't come. That's basically the rule.
What the gentleman should do is just email his details to you, and we can have a chat off air sometime next week.
Grant at migratingtoaustraliapodcast.com. If you do email to me on that, it will be forwarded to David. So
Michael, I love Twitter. I just enjoy it. Is it it's the third rate relative though, isn't it? Really?
No, it's number one. Twitter's number one.
No, it's not. No,
I think it's in America massive. Like I'll tell you the usage stats in Twitter. I'll give you one sec. It's like, I mean, I know certain industries it's really beneficial. And then if you're a celebrity, I guess it started out, right? If you're a celebrity, it was the fact that I think you had to tweet 20 times a day on average or something to actually get anything out of it. And to be honest, who's got that much to say? Like, well, I don't.
You have to engage in Twitter, and that's why it's really good for niche, because you can find your little community and you can talk. If you're trying to get noticed for political shit, and like if you're just trying to be a player in something really popular, it won't work. But if you have a niche, David can very effectively be an authority on immigration to Australia on Twitter. Because how many of you are there, David, in the space? You know,
there's about 6,000 migration professionals. That includes wonderful migration agents and immigration lawyers. About 6,000 in Australia.
So 1,000 won't be bothered, and then 1,000 won't be very good, and then there's probably another 1,000 who say, Twitter, what? So all of a sudden you're playing in a small pond. Just before we go on, Leroy Holden has again put something in my margin here. Thanks for the podcast, boys. I've been an avid listener for quite some time. When the border eventually opens and I can get my German partner and Australian son home, including myself, the espresso is on me.
Oh, Leroy,
the best from Austria.
How good.
Leroy, I love you. You know we love black coffee, short black coffee. Good on you, man.
So, and Leroy, you know where to find us, Grant at migratingtoaustraliapodcast.com. We can certainly take you up on the offer of a free espresso. I'm always in for a free espresso.
Michael, there's a lot of there's an increasing number of white collar professionals, lawyers, accountants, jumping on TikTok and using it to great effect. Grant can tell you about one, and that's James Duppich. James Duppich is a very highly regarded commercial lawyer up in Sydney. He's a rapper.
Chamberlain's.
He's a blogger. He's from Chamberlain's, a fine medium tier law firm up in Sydney. He's a very good lawyer. Now, TikTok for professionals. What's your view on that?
Oh, I think I'd be interested to see what his results are. To be honest, I don't. Have you seen? Is it going well? Is he getting traction?
Oh, yeah,
is it
getting very well.
What kind of videos is he doing?
Coffee and a case note.
His concept is he summarizes an important case in a different area of law succinctly, just direct to camera, holding up the phone. Now, I look. David kindly brought James up. Not just another podcast, one of my other podcasts. I talked to James because I'd seen him doing a various social media and thought, this is interesting. Here's a lawyer doing something that you didn't expect especially a commercial lawyer to do. Now, James is driving value for his firm.
Massive value.
But James is still a young man in the professional sense.
So James is building his personal brand as well.
He's building his personal brand, and he is smashing it. So he's doing two things.
So I'll tell you why that's good. It's because TikTok's about education. It comes back to what I was saying before, education and learning and giving people skills. Like TikTok is all about skills and skill learning. Like there's tweets and memes and all this stuff about how I've learned more on TikTok than I did at school. It's true. There's recipes on there. There's how-to guides. All this law notes would be really important. I learned a lot of my accounting stuff for uni through a YouTube channel, and it was like he summarized everything we were doing at uni. So I think it's a great idea if you can find a niche. Though, as I said, if you're finding a niche and you're educating people, you're gonna do well. And I think that's why this podcast does well, because you found your niche and you're educating people. And that's, if you're doing that with anything that you're doing, you're going to start conversations, you're going to start getting engagement. People are going to want to tune in because they want to learn something new every week. And he's obviously doing something really well.
And David did really well in the casting because he got this head to sit against that head. So that was a winning move, Dave.
Now, Michael, please feel free to give a wonderful plug to your business, First Digital. If people want to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you?
All right, so First Move Digital, guys, if you want to reach out, my name, I've just put my full name in there. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Would love to chat through there. If you want to shoot me an email, it's mg@firstmove.com.au. I'll see if Dave can link our website, because you can actually download the ebook straight from the website as well, if possible. But as I said, if you want to summarize First Move, if you want to put your brand or business in front of people, come chat to us. And that's any platform, if it's your website, if it's an app, if it's paid social media, organic social media. We even do branding and rebranding as well with style guides. So if you got an idea, if you've got a business that's in a bit of a rut, and you need to try to get more sales, more awareness, more conversions, anything like that, shoot me a message. Let's see if we can help you out. If we can't help you out, I'll let you know.
I love that. Truth in marketing and advertising. If we can't help you, I think that's what makes you different to a lot of other people, because sometimes people can't be helped, can they?
They can't. I think we're working on some more stuff to talk about budgets with people. And like you said before, Grant, there's average cost per clicks and average CPMs and all this. There's data. Everything's data, right? And you can start trying to figure out that if you put $1,000 into this is probably what you're going to get, and kind of giving people a bit more expectation of where their money's going to go, and go, cool, you might need to spend a bit more to actually get what you want out of it. But yeah, it's just figuring out those numbers for people.
Michael, thanks for taking Saturday afternoon to talk to us. It's been great to have you on.
No, I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. It's my first podcast. Hopefully you can do a few more now. But guys, it was great. Yeah, really Grant, good to meet you. David, always a pleasure.
Have a good afternoon, mate.
It's great, Michael. And look, I do have someone in mind for that Australian stock photography idea. So let's talk more about that. Dear listener, don't pinch our idea, all right? It's just
well, just give us a finder's fee. You'll be right.
Thanks very much, Michael. David, awesome, before we round up, did we get anything in the news this week that people need to know about?
No, there's nothing. I mean, people are coming into Australia still. There's an idea that people are coming in dribs and drabs. They're coming in dribs and drabs, but people can still return. The borders, it's not a free-for-all, and won't be a free-for-all for a long time, till at least May or June of next year. But people are coming in, and invitation rounds. Perhaps the most significant news last week was that the invitation rounds for the 189 visa have resumed for this new migration year. The new migration year is July 1. June 30 of next year. That's the year that we're in now, the new migration year, and 189 invitation rounds are back.
Are they all state-based invitations, David?
No, the state, well, Victoria, we'll go, you and I are going to do South Australia next week, but Victoria is a rolling invitation. Monday night, 189 visa invitation round. So for the 189 visa, doctors are being invited, of course, they always will be, health professionals. As the program unfolds, we'll talk more about it.
They still haven't added podcasters to the list, David.
Good afternoon, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys. And thank you very much.
Just remember before David rushes off, if you want to get hold of David, and indeed, if you want to catch up with what Michael's doing, check out the show notes for this episode. Michael's links will be in there, as will David's. But David, on Twitter, how do they find you?
At David Bongiorno, all one word, DAVID BONGIORNO.
And since we've been talking about Instagram, David.
You can do that one for me, Grant.
At Instagram for David Bongiorno, you'll find him at David_A_C_Bongiorno. He did a really good job picking that one out, didn't he?
Yeah, that's it. Michael, you'd shake your head and suggest I create a new tag, because that's just too difficult to remember.
Mate, you're a memorable person, mate. They'll remember. Don't worry about it.
Hey, David, I might be making a new one for you today. I just remembered the nickname I gave you. I bet no one's taken that one.
The Migration Titan.
Giving away all the secrets, David.
Quickly, cut it, edit it. Cheers, guys. Thank you very
See you
much.
guys. Ciao.
Hooroo, Migrating to Australia, done for another week, and getting in the Olympic spirits. Go Australia! Hooray!